A new team emerges as a threat to steal Pacers big man Myles Turner away from Pawnee. Can they actually get it done? We're going to read between the lines and get to the bottom of what's really going on here. Plus, there's a number of teams with multiple first-round picks in this year's draft that are primed to put them together and move up, including, yikes, the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll take a look at that as well. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications. Let's dive in. This is from Jake Fisher on the fantastic Substack that he shares with Mark Stein, noting the Detroit Pistons are potentially a threat to try to sign Myles Turner. Now, obviously, we have game 2 of the NBA Finals coming up tonight. I will be live for that, doing a little play-by-play. So if you want to hang out with me tonight during the game, be right here on the Basketball Bulletin YouTube channel. But Myles Turner, phenomenal player, has really come into his own and is turning heads right now in the postseason. The Pacers simply do not win game 1 without the performance of Myles Turner. But could a team really come in here and steal Myles Turner away from the Indiana Pacers? Look, a lot of teams would love to have a guy that can block shots the way Turner can while providing floor spacing on the other end. His three-point shooting is so valuable out there to allow teams to play 5 out. And the Detroit Pistons do potentially have cap room. They've got wiggle room to create $17 million in cap space. Now, we've seen some figures up to about $25 million. Turner rumored to be seeking about $30 million on his next salary, and probably does get that. Probably falls in that $25 to $30 million range. So the Pistons would make some sense, I guess. They do have Jalen Duren already, but they've already been mentioned as a team that's going to be after Naz Reid and maybe Santi Aldama as well. So the Pistons are well known to be in the market for a big man, and they are one of the few teams that has cap space to potentially spend. But what is really going on here? Do the Detroit Pistons really want to become the team to go after Myles Turner, or is this all just smoke in an attempt to make sure that the Pacers give Myles Turner the money that he wants? I tend to believe it's the latter, and here is why. The Detroit Pistons, yes, they have cap space, but they also have a lot of their own free agents that they would like to bring back. Now, Jake Fisher has talked a little bit about this, but in terms of the players that they like to bring back, you've got Malik Beasley, you have Dennis Schroeder, you have Tim Hardaway, and the Pistons are probably going to prioritize them in that order: Beasley, Schroeder, and then Tim Hardaway Jr. at 33 years old, who will be the lowest man on the totem pole in terms of who the Pistons prioritize bringing back. But they don't have that much cap space once you start paying these guys. For example, if you were to give Malik Beasley the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, the $14.1 million full MLE, well, that would require the Pistons to stay above the cap anyway. They wouldn't have cap space to go pay a player like Myles Turner then. So then why would the Detroit Pistons come up as a landing spot for Myles Turner? Well, it's simply because of this. There's no money out there. There's such a panic right now. It's a terrible time to be a free agent. This is from Brian Windhorst earlier in the year. Agents were saying things like this: I've never seen a free agency where only one team has real cap space in my career. We've got another one saying the cap's going to go up next year. You may have to wait and try it again. In other words, saying free agents might have to just kind of take a 1-year deal, sit out free agency. That's how bad it's going to be. Another noting that with the Brooklyn Nets being the only team that really has a lot of cap space, and they're not really in a position where they're trying to win right now, where they're going to go spend all of that money right now, that squeezes free agents even further because they're not necessarily a serious threat to go sign somebody. One person even put it very succinctly. One agent said, "These free agents are effed." Yeah, look, this is a bad time, a bad summer to be a free agent. There's just no cap space out there. The Brooklyn Nets are really the only team, aside from the Detroit Pistons and a few others, that can kind of wiggle their way to cap space. The Brooklyn Nets are the team that has the most cap space out there to spend. But the problem is, if you're Myles Turner and you're trying to create a credible threat to sign you away from the Indiana Pacers, to make sure that the Pacers don't use that as leverage, don't hold your feet to the fire, well, you need to find a team that could actually sign you. And the Brooklyn Nets are probably not ready to start winning right now. So are they really a threat to go sign Myles Turner? No, not really. And that's bad news for Turner and every other free agent that's out there on the market. So you have to find some other team to play as the boogeyman to scare your incumbent team into paying you. And I think that's what's going on here with the Detroit Pistons, who kind of maybe sort of can get to cap space, are being mentioned as a threat to sign Myles Turner. I think personally that's somebody out there wanting there to be a credible threat to sign Myles Turner and probably a credible threat to sign a number of other free agents out there. Look, we have already seen this season NBA teams use the lack of cap space this summer to their advantage. For example, the Miami Heat, they were not worried at all about Jimmy Butler leaving them in free agency this coming summer if they couldn't find a trade because there's nowhere for him to go to. Same was true with Brandon Ingram with the New Orleans Pelicans. In a normal situation, in a normal year, those players would have a credible threat of leaving in free agency, and that would push their incumbent teams to take perhaps less in a trade package to get them moved. In this situation, with no teams with cap space out there, really, aside from the Brooklyn Nets, who aren't much of a threat, the Miami Heat, the New Orleans Pelicans, they were more than happy to play hardball with Jimmy Butler and Brandon Ingram. So will teams have interest in Myles Turner? Absolutely they will, but I don't expect him to leave the Indiana Pacers. And I think when other teams get mentioned as landing spots for him, that's just trying to create some type of leverage so that the Pacers can't come in and say, hey, you want 30, we'll give you 20 because we know you can't get it anywhere else. Turner and every other free agent needs a team they can point to and say, well, but that team could give me 25 at least, so you need to bump up your offer. I think that's all the Pistons are being used as here. Always important this time of year that we try to read between the lines and think about who benefits from certain information getting out there. But let's also talk about the draft. And the draft is going to be, I think, a really exciting one. The draft really starts at pick number 3, although I could see the San Antonio Spurs moving on from the second pick. But one of the things that's interesting that Jake was noting in his piece was that there's a number of teams that could look to move up and are expected to look to move up, especially now that we've had a number of players withdraw from the draft because they can make so much money with their NIL money now. There's less value late in the first round than perhaps we've seen in years past. This is still a very strong draft at the top, particularly with Cooper Flagg, but nonetheless, look at how many teams have multiple picks. And what this is doing, this is creating an environment where we could see a lot of activity on draft night. I do think we're going to have not just a very busy trade-off season in the NBA, but a very busy draft night in terms of trades as well. So you take a look at this, you've got the Brooklyn Nets. They've got the 8th pick. Are they likely to move that? Probably not, unless they're packaging it with some other picks and moving up. But look at what they also have. The Brooklyn Nets, yes, they've got the 8th pick, but they also, my God, look at how many trades outside of the lottery we've seen already. Every pick outside of the lottery has already been traded with the exception of 3. That's absolutely insane. But look at the Brooklyn Nets. They've got the 19th pick. They have the 26th pick. They have the 27th pick. Are they really going to pick 4 first rounders? I mean, they could. They've got enough flexibility and they're building for the future, but most likely they'll take some of those picks, try to package them together, and then move up and get a higher level pick, again, especially with more players withdrawing from the draft, now that staying in college is more financially viable with the NIL money coming in. But you also look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the 15th pick that they got from the Miami Heat. They also have the 24th pick that they got from the LA Clippers. Thank you, Paul George trade, the gift that keeps on giving. My God, they could be the NBA champions and still have a way to move up in the lottery. They have that 15th pick, 24th pick, package those together. Maybe that could get you into the 13th pick, 12th pick, 11th pick, something like that. We could see something happen there, but they aren't the only ones. Also look at the Orlando Magic, and they are particularly a team to watch, not just on draft night, but on the trade market in general. The 16th pick, the 25th pick, the Orlando Magic could certainly package those together and try to move up. But the Magic have also made it very, very clear that they want to get shooting. They know their weaknesses and they want to solve those problems. This was Jeff Weltman, president of basketball operations, saying after the season, what we need is proven shot making, proven offensive play, someone that's going to come in and augment our weaknesses. They're looking for offensive-minded assistant coaches. They understand they were one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, but they're also one of the worst offensive team, the worst shooting team in the NBA, the worst three-point shooting team by a wide margin. So the Orlando Magic understand. It's very clear what they need to do. They've been aggressive in the past. They've tried to get De'Aaron Fox. They've been in on Malik Monk. Obviously, they're a team that's going to look to make some big moves. Jake Fisher notes that they could be a landing spot for maybe a Trae Young. He's just speculating here. Darius Garland's name gets thrown out there. We talked a little bit about him yesterday, about the Cavs maybe moving on from him. Boston looking to move on from Drew Holiday potentially, but I don't think Holiday necessarily checks the box for the Orlando Magic. But the bottom line is that there will be guards out there on the market to target. Fred VanVleet is even mentioned here, though I would be surprised if he winds up moving on from Houston unless it's a deal where they're bringing back a star level player, if it's Giannis or someone else. But still, there's going to be players out there available that would help fill the need that the Orlando Magic have. Plus, they've got multiple draft picks. That's a team to really keep an eye on that I think is going to be aggressive on draft night. And I'll tell you what, I actually think there'd be a decent amount of synergy between the Orlando Magic and my Los Angeles Lakers. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but they seem to have needs that fit together in terms of the Lakers have some players who could shoot the ball that they may look to trade, maybe a Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect, and then the Orlando Magic have some bigs, that are superfluous bigs, that they could send to LA who very clearly need a center. They've got guys like Wendell Carter Jr., Goga Bitadze. Maybe there's some type of synergy there, but the bottom line is that the Orlando Magic, in addition to the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Brooklyn Nets, and others, have multiple picks in this draft, opportunities potentially to move up in the lottery, as well as a very clear need that they're going to try to address on the trade market. So all of this adds into what is expected to be a very, very exciting and very busy NBA offseason. So once again, make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. We're going to keep you up to date on everything going on around the NBA. Thank you so much, everybody who's come in here and supported the channel. Let's face it, if you're watching the video at this point, you guys are the real ones right here at the end. We appreciate all of you and all the support we've gotten here at the Basketball Bulletin. And I hope I see you tonight for Game 2 of Pacers Thunder. We'll hang out. We'll do a little play-by-play. It's like a party. It's a good time. So come hang out right here for Game 2 of Pacers versus Thunder. Till then, everybody, see ya and stay safe.